And today we're going to talk about what happened the other night over in South Africa with Australia getting all out for 47. Now, notwithstanding the fact that Shaun Marsh, who would normally come in at first drop, came in at number 9 because of his back, it was Australia's worst single test innings for 109 years, and the questions have got to be asked: who will be sacked? Last year when the D's, the Melbourne Football Club, lost that massive game down at Kardinia Park to Geelong, coach Dean Bailey was sacked. Well, lucky for Australia, we currently don't have a coach. But Pat Howard, who's the new high performance national manager, must be scratching his head a week into the job saying, where to from here? And so the question really is what happened the other night over in South Africa an aberration? Is it a speed bump, admittedly a major speed bump, but is it a speed bump that we can get over? And from a distance, it looks like there are some major concerns with a couple of blokes who I wanted to talk about today. The first is Shane Watson. Now, as you know, I'm no Shane Watson fan. Don't like the fact he's been opening. Don't see why a bloke that is averaging 17 in the last series against Sri Lanka should be opening. If at all, he's an all-rounder. He should be batting at 6, maybe 5, but I'd be putting him at 6. We have let Phil Hughes down, and 2 years ago, the fact that we opened the series at home, the Ashes series at home against the Poms after we'd just lost it in the preceding winter with the same blokes was an absolute disgrace, and let's hope that we've learned from those lessons. But have we? We still have Shane Watson opening, who hasn't been scoring. He doesn't look like he'll be scoring, and so the question to the selectors, with Andy Bickle and Rod Marsh having joined Johnny Verity in the last couple of weeks, is what are you going to do? We've got a test series against New Zealand coming up in a couple of weeks at home, and then we've got another 3 tests against India, 3 or 4 tests against India. If we lose those tests to New Zealand, there are going to be fundamental questions asked about not only the players, but also what the hell's happening in the background. Irrespective of Howard and Inverarity, Bickle and Rod Marsh coming in, we might actually have to come to the realisation, as I have, particularly when I read Peter Layla's piece this morning in The Australian, maybe it's time to actually make some wholesale changes. So for me, we'd be moving Watson down, if at all. I think he adds an extra bowling attack. He's a good bowler, he got 5 the other day. But the question's got to be asked, why have we been opening with this bloke for 2 years? On the other hand, Phil Hughes, despite his 100 in Sri Lanka, doesn't look all that settled, and the more you read, the more questions there are. And as Peter Layla in The Australian said today, how long, essentially? How long will it be until someone like a Madison or a Eddie Cowan, the Tasmanian Oper, Chris Lynn from Queensland perhaps, puts their hand up? David Warner is smacking him around at the moment, so is Usman Khawaja. Warner had a standout series for Australia A couple of months ago, and would be pretty likely, I think, this coming 6 months to debut in Test for Australia. Not bad for a bloke who was regarded only a season or 2 ago as a 2020 player. The other player I want to talk today about is Mitchell Johnson. Now, Mitch is like the French rugby team. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. The French rugby team either turn up and play or they turn up and forget. And Mitchell Johnson is an enigma. He's a player that is either on or he's completely off. And when you've got people like Cummins who are about to tear down the house, people like Copeland who are a very good bowler, Siddle, Ryan Harris coming back into some good form, James Patterson has been doing some good games for Victoria recently, including against WA even this morning. You've got to be asking Mitchell Johnson, how long? He's not an all-rounder, and if he's not scoring runs as an all-rounder, which he's really not, but if he's not there if he's not taking wickets, the question is, what's he doing? So we've got a lot of soul searching to do from that series from Sri Lanka. I think there were some really good points. One of those standouts was Shaun Marsh, but unfortunately he's got a bad back. But the other day was an utter disgrace. The batting was turgid. It was an abomination, and we should all be embarrassed. If this had been a football game, people would have been sacked en masse. and I think the Australian players can count themselves lucky that they weren't playing a game at home, because I think the outcry would have been a lot worse than it is. So that's my feeling for today. Let's hope that they do drop Johnson. Please, selectors, put Watson down. And Phil Hughes, I'm a big fan. I rate Phil Hughes. I think he's got a great temperament. I think he was treated exceptionally poorly by the selectors a couple of years ago. But the clock is ticking, and it's people like Eddie Cowan, it's people like Nick Maddison, it's people like David Warner, who in these series of Shield matches leading up to the home summer are going to have the opportunity, a rare opportunity really, in when you think about how hard it has been to get into the Australian team in the Langer, Gilchrist, Hayden, Warney days of actually getting in. And so I think these blokes are going to have the opportunity like they've never had before to step up. And Sean Marsh is a bloke that wasn't scoring heavily in Shield cricket. He worked his way into Test cricket through the one days, and a century on debut, and far and more esteemed writers and commentators, Peter Layla, Gideon Haigh, Gerard Whateley, are saying this bloke has the goods. We need more people like Sean Marsh, because let's face it, if we don't, we're going to continue to lose, and we're going to continue to lose heavily.